we cannot understand the dynamics at that point. And the main reason is, as I mentioned, most probably after a deeper recession, the capitalism will be shaped by the state rather than the other way around. Because so far, capitalism shaped the state. I mean, the capitalism created neoliberalism and neoliberal politics, and the states have been shaped in that line. But most probably in the near future, it will be the other way around. I mean, there will be very strong states, and they will shape capitalism. And we will see a very different capitalism. I mean, we cannot know how it will be like, but if we work on a theory of state, we can make some predictions. I mean, that is my point.
Thank you.
Well, I'd like to comment on, not answer, no answers, comment and discuss Theo's question, and make a bridge to what the former presenter said. Well, it's true that political commitments, not commitments, political ideas are close to religious ideas, not scientific, because scientific ideas supposedly speak about a description of the world that is that doesn't centrally involve our lives. When it does, scientific ideas becomes again fanatical. See what happens with climate change in the US. I think that one of the roots of this attitude is the fact that the state, which we were discussing, and hierarchy, the word hierarchy in Greek is, because it comes from Greek, is very evident as to what it means. It consists of two words, hiero, which means sacred, sanctum, and archi, which means power. So it's the power of the holy, the power of the sacred. That is the condition, the birth condition of the state. And every hierarchy, the words are expressing it that way. So what happens is that the identity provided by this society that we live in is leans towards heteronomy, towards hierarchy, leans towards assuming that the basic central questions of our lives are to be solved elsewhere. And this is not a new concept, but it's a concept old as the state that completely transforms its manifestations. So we have a fact of internalization of significances. For example, some people think that capitalism is good, or something like that. However, if we had a complete internalization, as for example the Spartan state of ancient Greece, there would be no revolt. The revolt shows that this internalization, this acceptance of societal norms is not complete, because it is subjectively incomplete. It doesn't provide the subject, each person, with a meaning, especially this non-religious politic. So it doesn't have a meaning of metaphysical deity which can provide all the others, but also objectively, because we see that we are on the brink of extinction, and we also see that humanity is a crazy history. I mean, it's a history of self-exploitation too deep for it not to be objectified, not to be understood. What seems to us as a minority will always remain a minority, being then the alternative discourse, not the dominant discourse. But if we look closely, I think that due to the fact that this subjective frustration, this angst, this anxiety, this non-meaning that pushes some people over to the edge of extremism and over to the edge of neo-fascist and neo-fundamentalist, how can I say, quest of meaning, can be replaced by a sense of community, which is more strong than this education of hierarchy. That's why we're here now. If we were complete projects of our society, we should be with, straight jackets. And but this is like a process that, when we abandoned it, it fails. Like Murray Bookchin, he never abandoned not only the process of declaring his ideas, but also criticizing his ideas. I remind you the very, how can I say, profound move that he criticized anarchism, while at the time that he was the most famous anarchist in the world. But he did that. He didn't try to supplement it or to find like an alibi, because he understood, I think, that's what I think when I read him, that the problems that we're now facing are problems that we cannot escape from nowadays. We cannot escape from in a small commune, we cannot escape from in a monastery. This is the objective, how can I say, means of our struggle and our global struggle. Of course, this is scattered, fragmented, but the means of communicating that, I believe, are stronger than hierarchy, because I believe that is against the nature of human communities. Because if this was the way, humanity would not have survived. So.
Thank you. Very good. Do you have other?
Yeah. Mine is Brian Morris. Bookchin was in the anarchist tradition. And part of the anarchist tradition was to realize that power has three basic dimensions, really. One there's the economic power, which we call class. Okay, the other one is coercive power, which is related to the state. And of course, Bookchin's book, The Ecology of Freedom, actually is not on capitalism at all. It's a theory of the state. The book's called the Rise of Hierarchy, and as you've actually described it, it's actually the things. The other one is called the sacred power, because no government, even Genghis Khan, can purely rely on coercive power. They have to, and Demetra said this morning, there's this element of legitimation. You have to legitimate it in consciousness, and religion has always, which is the sacred, has always sanctified the state and sanctified things. And these three forms of power are intricately interconnected. Religion, power in the state, the capitalist system, economic power are all intricately interlinked, and they rely on each other. Look at the Indian government now, look at the Saudi Arabia. What is Indian government all about, really? Hindustan, Hindu fundamentalism, okay, neo-capitalism, and a very, very authoritarian state that any peasants or tribal people who resist him just get hammered and shot. And so, I think we have to realize that. And of course, what was important about Bookchin, for me, he criticized all three. Yeah. He criticized hierarchy. He actually criticized, he's often accused of not having an interest in class. I mean, most anarchists don't like Bookchin because they think he ignored class. He never ignored class. He was always fundamentally anti-capitalist the whole of his life. It was fundamentally anti-government, anti the state, all right. And what is also important about him in this day and age, where religion is rampant, he was always against religious ideas. He didn't like it at all. This is what his critique of deep ecology was all about, really, because it was all to do with he always used the word mystification, It's interesting, the word, how he used it. What mystification is all about is mystification, which is actually to do with legitimation.
Thank you. We have Dan here. Did you want to respond already, Federico? Yeah. I let Federico in first.
So I would like to add something to the answer to Theo. My presentation was chapter number 3. My answer is chapter number 8 of my thesis. No, I'm joking. So my answer is a serious one. Is building a culture of resistance. I'm not academic to build things, but they show some sense. In my opinion, what we have to do nowadays is try to understand what we build a change. How can we make struggles not just on big theories all around the world that can be with the potential that can apply everywhere, but try to build something, say, local in a different scale. Okay, I can take the two examples that are quite important. Like we can say the Zapatista and the Kurds. The Zapatista, they were born with some Marxist scholars, and they went to the hills in Chiapas, and they started to speak for days to the Indians. And the Indians were listening. And then the Indians said, okay, we just listen you, now you have to listen us. Okay. So, and then they started a process that led after 20 years to the revolution in 1994. So it's been a process in which all the movement, so the Indians, the intellectuals, the guerrillas, and so on, they modified their ideas, they managed to combine together the Indians' knowledge and the Marxist analysis and so on. They create something that worked for them. And they are not planning to extend for the rest of the world. They say, we're Zapatistas, we don't want that everyone becomes Zapatistas, you have to find your way. Somehow also the Kurds did something different, something very similar. And that this is related to, for example, social ecology. The work of Shalani is great, he did incredible things. And then he also took, he read many different authors, and he managed to create something unique that is applicable for, and is working for the Kurds in the Middle East. That is incredible, he's working for them. And he was able to translate, all the movement was able to translate some different ideas to their necessity. So my question is, are we capable of this? Who of us is building, some of us are saying that we should be able and committed to build a movement for 20, 30 years, 40 years in order to translate ideas from all over the world in our context. Someone said, and just to conclude, that building a culture of resistance is formed on two different concepts, I think. One is remember the revolution of the past, and remember and learn from experience all over the world. We have to remember what we are doing and what happened to us from the opposite power. And then there is a second moment that is imagine. Remember and imagine. Imagine is try to use our imagination to transform these ideas that we are remembering for us, that can be useful on the ground. And then if I can relate to my presentation, we are speaking about right to the city. If we are speaking about spatial justice, I'm saying, let's use this concept. Let's use this concept. But we have to be aware that A, maybe not everywhere can work, and B, we are using also other theory that can go beyond right to the city and spatial justice. That can be in dialogue with the population, but maybe that can be the entry point, and then maybe we can add, okay, that is great, we want the right to the city, but also we want to smash the state. That can be the entry point for a different discourse, and so on.
Thank you. We have Dan and then Emmett. Are there any more right now? Let's start with that.
Dan Schottercroft, Marshfield, Vermont, USA. Your presentation very provocative, and I know that was your intention. I appreciate it very much. And you began to answer my question just now, but essentially, how do we find the balance between the universal and the particular? How do we extract those elements from our own traditions, our own cultures, our own communities, and find a way at the same time to apply them within a framework which guarantees, and you have by the way, in the book to find the discussion of right, because it's not apparent in a lot of his work. And there's also something a little contradictory, because while he rejected that framework, he also called the broad constitutional framework to underlie these local developments. In other words, not every community decides and goes ahead and creates traditions based on their history, or we would have traditions in Alabama where they were, as we're seeing today, where they embraced the tradition of slavery and racial oppression. So that's really, for me, the crux of it. How do we take those dimensions that Bookchin develops through dialectical naturalism, have our understanding, the invitation of nature itself, and apply them in some kind of a broad framework that still allows for this individuation and all of that.
Thank you. We have one more question. Present yourself.
Not the presenter, actually. I would like to ask my question to the presenter. I have read the text. Brian Morris has mentioned that class-state relations are interlinked. I interpret the class as economy, and state is military, and the religion, of course, belief system. In this context, I would like to ask to Metin, he sees the future of evolution of Chinese compared to the other states. They come from so-called socialist background culture, and they are paying really serious attention to environmental problems, create models, giant models, very local. And religion is very weak in China, I guess. Even some religious cults are strong, but in general, so-called communalism, communist states as opposing to religion. Spirituality is not, I don't know, I haven't been in China, but what I get impression. So is China can be a model evolution of the state, a more peaceful future for not creating wars and not using militaristic power much? Or how do you see the future prediction?
Okay, so we let Federico answer first.
Thank you, Dan, for the question. And I just forgot to say that the concept that I used, remember and imagine, are from Dan, from his novel. So it's something that I learned from him, and it's important to stress. The question that you're posing is a question that I don't have a definitive answer. I think that the tension between the general and the particular is an ongoing tension, and it will be always like that. And I see dialectical naturalism not just to give us a straightforward answer, yes or no. We can say, is slavery bad? Yes, full stop. But at the same time, dialectical naturalism can also help to open a broader discussion that maybe can help to solve the tension. The tension that can be arise between different ideas, between different communities. If we are using the concept of mutualism, differentiation, and development, we can open the discussion. And then I definitely believe in a didactic process, in a dialogical process, in order to solve different tensions. So I see dialectical naturalism as a dialogical process in order to start the discussion. And I think that to a certain extent we can say there are some that we can say that are definitely bad or definitely good, and other things that can be open for discussion. Be my answer.
I want to comment on the same question, but do you want to answer first?
Yes, maybe you can answer first.
Okay, sure. Actually, it's a very complicated question to answer because historically China was not an aggressive state like imperialist states of Europe, but in terms of understanding Chinese state, first of all, I need to say that I don't see it as a socialist state. I see it more like a neo-Confucian state. So Confucian state means, it's a very different tradition. We cannot really tell how it will shape the future of China, because during the history, the situation in China was very different. In the future, it will be very different. But we need to look at all those things, different perspectives as well. For example, during the century, imperialism was a very important part of capitalism. But today, imperialism became internal. Imperialism became a very internalized. For example, if you look at Saudi Arabia or Turkey, they are regional powers, and actually they are imperialists themselves, rather than imperialism drives them to do something. So Arif Tirlik call it imperialism became the exploitation of places by the local state rather than a different state. So the concept of imperialism will be very different. Even now it is different, and it will be very different in 10 or 15 years. So most probably it will be a more peaceful world, because as in the past, imperialist states were not able to impose wars in remote areas. Regional powers will be stronger, and if there will be wars, it will be a war between regional powers rather than a war imposed by imperialist states. So it's very complicated.
I'd like to make a comment on Dan's question, which I think is the core of the issue of point of justice, understanding the relationship between a universal law or ethos and the particular case. Of course, I'd like to comment on that it being a question of the core question of what the society called common good sense, or society itself, we think that there is always a framework of ethics and universals, even if it's not explicit, to the point in every case that the society is coherent and not like that. So we already live in a world of implicit universal, not rules, but functions, which is hidden behind the slogans about truth, justice, and blah, blah. I think the critique, the critical mind, which was present in the same with Bookchin, is to expose those universal functions, and by exposing them through particular solutions, like when Biomed, this factory in Thessaloniki, is being self-organized, this experiment is not just a particular experiment. It's something that resonates along worker movements in the world. When the state of Vermont and the city councils, it's a tradition that resonates, and also other traditions. And it's very interesting. I'd like to stress this meeting of universal, I would say, humanitarian or liberation or emancipation ideas with local communal traditions, which not only reinforces the communal spirit of the old, but creates a new communal spirit. For example, the interesting thing about Zapatistas was not only that they did not speak as a universal, I can say, guard, but they spoke about their particular situation to a universal audience. And that is what they addressed themselves. They said, come, let's build our school, a particular school, together. And because there were many Greeks going there, the movement for building a school in Japan became a universal movement. So I think that we should point out that I believe in the objectivity of our ideas. I believe it's better for humanity to live in freedom and inequality, and believe it's deeply rational, this system that we live in. And I think that this is a point that we should stress out, even as philosophically, in the end, the same paradox, because there is always what is value. But let's face so we can discuss it at once, first, the paradox, which is now hidden through domination structures.
Thank you. Very good. Do you have other comments or questions from the audience? Yes?
Hello, I'm Panos, Homo sapiens, I'd like to say, so we all come together in what unites us. I would like to comment something about the state and ask some questions. Although I agree that there is a transformation at the state, I perhaps disagree at the conclusion. Don't you see there's kind of tension from capitalism to consume the state? Of state functions. And also I think there is a conflict here at the moment between the capitalist, perhaps the economic authority, as we say, and the state, because we see major groups of countries like the EU or like US trying to build trade unions, like with NAFTA, with CETA, with all these new treaties that mainly are trying to break down borders. Capitalism doesn't like borders. And it's an irony because until recent years, capitalism liked right-wing, but now because it wants to break out borders, for commercial reasons, of course, they have a problem because they think that they use the patriotic and nationalistic feelings. Now they come as an obstacle to them. To make new commercial unions, but people say suddenly, no, we want the American factories to stay in America. Chinese say, no, we want the Chinese factory. Even you see some tragic situations like people in Bangladesh after the collapse of the factory saying, don't stop buying our clothes because we won't have to eat. We want our exploitation factories here. So I'm asking, don't you see a kind of try from capitalism to consume the state? So we won't have what you said, state, how do you say, like the horseman is driving capitalism, but capitalism perhaps is driving state to a situation where state at the end ceases to exist because it will be privatized. At the end, you will vote for Apple, for Coca-Cola, and for Facebook. Vote Facebook. So the question is if you see some kind, perhaps, of a different outcome from this conflict between state and capitalism.
You want to respond?
Yes. What you are saying is true for today, and it is a result of neoliberalism. But what I am saying is it is changing even now. For example, think about why Trump became president in the US. Because neoliberalism created so many poor people, and they were actually supposed to be middle class, white people, very poor, and now they blame neoliberalism. As a result of their poverty, and now they want it changed. They want this coming to the United States, but it is too late because the capitalism. It is just for more profit, and if there is more profit in China, capital goes to China. You can't pull it back to the United States. But at the end, there is only one way to change that discourse. There will be more authoritarian states intervening economy and all other things. And we will see it in the new future. That is what I think. It might be as a result of another recession, or it might be happening very slowly. Maybe we will not notice it, but it will be happening slowly. That is what I argue. The other thing, there is a trend that China became the factory of the world. It will be more and more. And at the end, what China does will affect the whole world. For example, if China intervene the production processes through financing by state banks, it might become a model for the whole world. Because, in capitalism, you need to compete. If your competitor is doing something, and if it gets advantage out of what they do, you have to do the same. That is what I think. So, I'm not saying that we will see it in a few years, but we might see more neoliberal policies in the very near future. But if you look at, let's say, in 10 years or 15 years, I think everything will be changed. That is what I argue.
Just to comment, I would like on this question to stress something that proves Brian's point. State, religion, and capital is a constellation. We cannot separate one from another or think that one opposes the other. Bright is brighter and the other dimmer, but it's a constellation. If you do not have capitalism without the state, and you could not have the state, now this state, without capitalism. You could have another state. I just want to say a story. When in 2008 the December riot happened in Greece, the most prominent neoliberal politician, Stefanos Manos, which of course is for deregulation and privatization, was the first one to call the army. So when neoliberals means no state, that means just the army and the police. Private armies, then we would fade out anarchy. So the army and the police are basic elements for the state. That's what.
Okay, we have time for a few more comments, and then I will give the speakers up here the chance to give a final comment on everything. We have one left.
Yes, I'm Oltamne from Finland and a small. I think that when we speak about state, I think that we should also take that dimension where Alexander was hinting, and that states are also global structures, that we have like a global capitalistic class, and although in sociological theories about global class state, and maybe it's a little weaker now than like anyway it exists, and it's a very different type of state. For example, that it hasn't such a legitimacy only among the capitalist class. For example, in Finland, in our small country, it's clear that our politicians and capitalists, they like USA army and many things which USA doing for global capitalism, even if it's very often just against the interest of and also I think that when you speak about global state, you must it's useful to use this concept, which is of course very explosive, namely deep state. That many things what happens on global level, it happens in shadow, and it uses this secret services and that kind of violence which is not so visible. What do you think about this perspective?
Hey, thank you. Do you have any more questions or comments from the audience? One more? Yes? Say your name and
I'm trying to, I know the attention much, and I have some interesting theories, and I understand some nuances. But I'd like to know, from the point of view of the three of you, should Greece leave the European Union and make an alliance with Turkey or China? Should they stay in? And should Turkey European Union, or should it do something else?
If you want to answer that question.
I think if there are no other comments from the audience, I will give the chance to all of you too.
I would like to answer that question about Greece or not. I mean, it's a dilemma that if someone has put you inside a prison in Siberia, but provide you with food, should you leave the prison? It's in the hands of you might die, but it's a forced dilemma. The same forced dilemma that is between Turkey and the EU. It's a means of pacifying or channeling the populations. And that was evident to whoever saw the Greek-led government. It was evident that that was what they could do. But to tell you the truth, the brilliance of Tsipras was that he provided us with a dramatic play. That it was never the question. The first thing that the Greek government did on February 15th, 1 month after elected, it was acknowledging the debt. If you acknowledge the debt, everybody knows. If I sign it, then it's open. So it's a means of renovating the capital flows of European Union, and of course Turkey has bigger problems. But and that would be the final thing that I would say. Since we speak about geography, let's look at the map, and you see that the Aegean Sea it's irrational to divide anything. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful and easy sailing seas in the world. It never divided anything. You can see the mountains in Greece, and they divide population. But the Aegean Sea should not. So this political adjustment that we have is this nation-state class is very new, very fresh, and it points out a very dangerous idea that you can divide populations in the course of one generation. And that you can make people think that there is a traditional entity that live amongst each other. In Thessaloniki know that, in Istanbul know that. And I'd like to inform you that here we are in Thessaloniki, the biggest, second biggest city in Greece, whereas the Greeks do not remember that the Jewish community, one of the biggest in the Mediterranean, was not even a century before. I mean, here we are in a, how can I say, amputated city. Memory phase. So that I think is what Federico said about a tradition, history of resistance and.
If there is no other question for me, I think that you heard enough my voice, and I think that I said all the things that I wanted. So I don't have anything else to add. So thank you.
Great, that's my.
Okay then, thank you. Now then we have a break until 4:15, and then we will be back here for introducing workshops. So yes, thank you for this.